Hello and welcome to today's stroll. We meet some interesting dogs, namely a young St. Bernard mix, the Australian Shepherd and Havanese mix from the first video, a Doodle, a Labrador and a Shar-Pei. If you haven't heard of the so-called Fiddle about strategy and are curious about one or the other breed fun fact, then feel free to take part in our stroll. Right at the beginning we meet the St. Bernard. Here's the moment when Juno sees him for the first time. She first curiously directs her ears forward and then immediately takes them down a bit to the side, which must mean the St. Bernard had spotted her too and is watching her. Then she trots relaxed towards the other dog. She shows open, neutral and friendly behavior and signals to him that she wants an unagitated meeting. The following sniffing takes place in a positive mood, but from Juno's side very briefly and in passing. That's a sign that she's not very interested in him and wants to continue with the walk, unlike the St. Bernard. Let's have a closer look at the St. Bernard. I estimate him to be about 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 years, which is an exciting age. Puberty is in full swing, hormones affect self-confidence among other things, and the dogs are neither fish nor meat. They try out many ways of dealing with other dogs and still have to find themselves. This male dog is a good example of this. After Juno just kept walking, he was aroused and stopped Juno. He lays his head in Juno's neck area, which can be a coincidence here, but also a gesture of dominance. If you look very closely, you can see that Juno then bites him away. The St. Bernard is impressed by this, but then immediately wants to get in touch again in form of sniffing. Juno then takes off and the St. Bernard follows her. As you can see, the St. Bernard is not as stormy as before. Here Juno vacillates between a correction and the so-called fiddle about. The fiddle about is one of the 4 strategies for resolving a conflict and is expressed in play behavior to loosen up the situation. Here, this and the removal of the owners of the male dog causes the situation to be turned.
Wildfang, der war auch noch nicht alt.
Nee, ne?
Nee.
Was denn?
Nix.
Ich muss neue Schuhe runter.
Ja.
Diese einen, weißt du?
Ja, Salomons.
Ja, und diese New Balance. Die New Balance fand ich ja so.
Here we meet an old acquaintance from our first walk. Today Juno does not want to be sniffed either, neither by the Australian Shepherd nor by the Havanese.
Ach.
Jo.
So klein.
Not wanting to be snooped on is usually an expression of social insecurity, but I think Juno is very confident in dealing with other dogs. My guess is that she doesn't like to be sniffed because she's learned that it is often a precursor to humping. But maybe Juno is also a little insecure from time to time in the first moments of meeting unfamiliar dogs and has to accustom first. In all other situations, she has a very confident appearance. The fact that she runs so far with the 2 of them also shows that she likes to have contact with other dogs and feels comfortable around them.
Warum?
Weil Insekten gleich gut.
Since there are people coming towards us, I take Juno back to the far side. Are you in the mood for some fun facts about the dog breeds we've met so far?
Geh mal andere Seite.
The St. Bernard has lived with the monks in Switzerland since the end of the 17th century and supported them. There's the famous avalanche dog Barry, who saved the lives of about 40 people.
Hallo.
Australian Shepherds don't come from Australia at all, but from the USA. They were supposed to herd an Australian breed of sheep, which is how the name came about. It turned out that Australian Shepherds were not only useful for herding sheep, but they could also keep cattle in check and guard the farm. The protective instinct and territorial behavior of the breed should therefore often not be underestimated.
Jetzt denkt sie wieder.
The Havanese comes from Cuba and was bred by overseas captains. In the meantime, the Havanese was extinct in Cuba, but today it has reconquered the entire world and is popular for his lovely character and various fur colors.
Scan ist doch beim Poker eigentlich, oder nicht?
Oh ja.
Ja, ja.
Morgens Moje und dann Servus. Ich sag dann immer Moin.
The training pays off. Here, Juno goes to the far side of her own accord. A doodle is coming towards us. Juno is asking me in advance what she should do by looking at me. At first, I had a feeling that he didn't want any contact at all, which is why I lured Juno to me. But then he wants to get in touch. My boyfriend doesn't even notice that he keeps the doodle from following Juno with his body language. If Juno were an anxious dog who didn't want any contact, that would have been the right reaction. But it wasn't wrong that way, because Juno didn't seem to be very interested, so she didn't have to send him away herself.
Oh, da hinsetzen?
Kann man machen.
Nicht da, in die Sonne.
Ja, hier. Ach so, da.
Da.
Ja. Hä, ach so, ich dachte da unten. Da ist doch auch eine.
Oder die, wenn die nicht belegt ist.
Ja.
As we sit down on a bench, a Labrador passes by. It is said that Labradors lack a certain gene that is responsible for the feeling of satiety. In addition to eating, they still like to go swimming and being active, because they were originally bred for hunting.
Ja, aber ich habe auch nur
Even though there are no show lines that are more cumbersome, Labradors from the working line must be well trained. Hunters like the Labrador because the breed is known for its soft mouth. Thus, the prey they are supposed to retrieve is not damaged. The Shar-Pei comes from China, and it is said to have been bred over 2,000 years ago. Since this breed is so old, there have already been several uses for it. The Shar-Pei was a fighting dog, herding dog, and farm dog. It must be mentioned that this breed is considered a torture breed in Germany. The Shar-Pei has massive skin and eye problems caused by the excess skin folds. Here you can see Juno doing her self-imposed police work. She would actually like to tell the dog that just ran past us that he was speeding. But she doesn't take her work too seriously, so she changes her mind. Chilling in the shade seems a lot nicer than chasing another dog. We now sit down a little longer and say goodbye. See you on our next stroll.